As a soft morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a gentle glow across our bedroom, I stretched out beneath the sheets, reveling in the serenity of the moment. It was my birthday, and I felt an undeniable excitement bubbling within me. David had promised me a special day, and knowing him, it would surely be memorable. My husband, David, was the kind of man who thrived on surprises. His infectious laughter and boundless energy often filled our home with joy. We'd been married for 3 wonderful years, and I adored every quirky aspect of his personality. But what I loved most was his unwavering commitment to making every moment count, especially on special occasions. Happy birthday, sweetheart. David's voice boomed as he burst into the room, carrying a tray laden with my favorite breakfast. Pancakes topped with fresh strawberries, whipped cream, and a steaming cup of coffee. He was grinning from ear to ear, his dark hair tousled and his eyes sparkling with mischief. Thank you, babe. I beamed at him, sitting up and crossing my legs beneath the sheets. The aroma of the coffee wafted through the air, awakening my senses even more. Eat up. We've got a big day ahead of us, he said, setting the tray down on the bed and leaning over to plant a kiss on my forehead. After a delightful breakfast filled with laughter and sweet nothings, David revealed the first surprise of the day, a scenic drive to a quaint little vineyard just outside the city. The sun shone brightly as we cruised down winding roads, the fresh air filling our lungs, and music playing softly in the background. I couldn't help but admire how thoughtful he was, always taking the time to craft experiences we could cherish together. The vineyard was breathtaking, sprawling fields of grapes glistening in the sunlight, and a charming tasting room beckoning us to explore. We spent the afternoon sampling exquisite wines, the warmth of the sun wrapping us in its embrace. As the day unfolded, David's excitement grew, and so did my curiosity about what other surprises he had in store. We returned home just as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. David led me inside, the atmosphere warm and inviting, and I felt a thrill of anticipation. Are you ready for your final surprise? He asked, his eyes twinkling mischievously. I can't wait, I replied, biting my lip in anticipation. Okay, but first you need to close your eyes, he instructed, and I obeyed, trusting him completely. I could hear him moving around the room, and I felt a flutter of excitement in my stomach. All right, open them. I opened my eyes to find our living room transformed. Candles flickered softly, casting a warm glow throughout the space, and fairy lights twinkled from the ceiling. There was a table set for 2, but that wasn't what caught my attention. David was standing next to one of our closest friends, Mark, who was leaning casually against the wall, a knowing smile on his face. My heart raced as I pieced together the scene unfolding before me. David, what's going on? I asked, a mixture of confusion and intrigue washing over me. Happy birthday. This is your surprise, he said, stepping forward and taking my hands in his. I want to do something different this year. I know you've talked about wanting to explore new experiences. My breath caught in my throat as the implication sank in. David was suggesting a threesome with Mark, an idea that had danced on the edges of my mind, but had never been voiced. I looked between the 2 men, feeling a rush of emotions. Is this really okay? I whispered, my heart racing with both fear and exhilaration. Only if you wanted love, David assured me, his gaze unwavering. I want you to feel desired and cherished. This is about your pleasure. Mark stepped closer, his expression gentle yet full of playful energy. No pressure, really. Just think of it as an adventure. I felt a thrill run through me at the thought of it, a secret fantasy I had never dared to act upon. I glanced back at David, who was watching me intently, his love for me evident in his eyes. What do you think? He encouraged, his voice low and soothing. A surge of confidence washed over me. I think, I want to try. David's face broke into a wide grin, and I felt a surge of excitement. That's my girl. As we moved toward the sofa, the atmosphere shifted. It was as if the air itself crackled with anticipation. The three of us settled onto the plush cushions, the initial awkwardness fading quickly as we began to chat and laugh together. David reached for me first, pulling me into his embrace and kissing me deeply, his lips warm and familiar. I melted into him, feeling safe and cherished. Mark watched us with an appreciative smile, and I felt a thrill of daring excitement at the idea of sharing this intimate moment. "You're so beautiful," David whispered between kisses, his hands roaming along my waist. I glanced at Mark, who was watching us intently, his gaze heated yet respectful. David turned to Mark, his expression serious yet playful. "You ready for this, buddy?" Mark chuckled, the tension breaking as he nodded, "Absolutely." With that, David's lips found mine again, and I felt Mark's presence grow closer. I could feel the heat radiating from both men, and it was intoxicating. As David pulled back to allow Mark to join in, I felt a rush of exhilaration. Mark leaned in, his hands finding their way to my shoulders, and I could feel the heat of his body as he pressed against me. I glanced at David, who smiled encouragingly. "Just relax and enjoy it." As our kisses deepened, the lines of our relationship began to blur, and I found myself lost in the moment. David's hands explored my body while Mark's fingers danced through my hair, creating a symphony of sensations that left me breathless. The atmosphere shifted, transforming into a sensual tapestry of touch, taste, and sound. The three of us moved together in a rhythm that felt both new and exhilarating. Each kiss, each caress ignited a fire within me that I had never experienced before. I reveled in the duality of their attention, feeling desired and cherished in ways I hadn't anticipated. David's gaze never left me, his love evident in every glance, while Mark's energy was playful yet respectful, heightening the thrill of the experience. As we explored each other's bodies, I felt liberated from the confines of convention. This was a birthday surprise I had never imagined, yet it felt right, a beautiful blend of trust, passion, and intimacy. Hours melted away, and eventually we found ourselves wrapped in each other's arms, laughter and whispers echoing in the air. I felt a sense of euphoria wash over me, a blissful afterglow of an experience that had deepened my connection with both men. David kissed my forehead softly, his voice a gentle murmur. "Happy birthday, love. I hope this is a memory you'll cherish forever." "It is," I whispered back, my heart full. I looked at Mark, who smiled back at me, his eyes reflecting the same warmth. In that moment, I understood that love could be limitless, defined by the boundaries we choose to explore together. My birthday had transformed into an experience that would forever change the way I saw our relationship and the way I embraced desire. As the night wore on, I knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, one filled with adventure, intimacy, and the unbreakable bond of love that David and I shared. And with that thought, I closed my eyes, surrendering to the warmth of the moment, knowing that I was exactly where I was meant to be. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight crept through the curtains, bathing the room in a soft golden hue. I stirred beneath the covers, the memories of the night before swirling vividly in my mind. My body still tingled with the remnants of sensation, and my heart swelled with a curious mix of emotions: excitement, gratitude, and a lingering sense of wonder. David lay beside me, his chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. His arm was draped protectively around my waist, his warmth anchoring me in the moment. As I turned to look at him, his eyes fluttered open, and a sleepy smile spread across his face. "Morning, birthday girl," he murmured, his voice thick with sleep. "Morning," I replied, my own smile mirroring his. Last night was incredible. David's expression softened, and he leaned in to kiss my forehead. "I'm glad. I wanted it to be everything you hoped for, and more." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. Mark's voice, lighthearted and teasing, called out, "Is it safe to come in, or am I interrupting?" David chuckled, his arm tightening around me briefly before he called back, "Come on in, Mark." The door opened, and Mark stepped inside, holding 3 steaming mugs of coffee. He wore an easy grin, his demeanor as relaxed as if this were the most natural morning after scenario in the world. "Thought you two might need a little caffeine," he said, handing us each a mug before settling on the edge of the bed. "Thank you," I said, taking a sip and savoring the rich aroma. The warmth of the coffee seemed to seep into my soul, grounding me. I'm still wrapping my head around everything that happened, but I don't regret it. Mark's smile widened, and he exchanged a quick glance with David. "That's good to hear. It's not every day someone gets to make a birthday as unforgettable as yours." "Unforgettable is definitely the right word," I said, feeling a blush creep up my cheeks. I never imagined I'd feel so comfortable, so free. David reached for my hand, his thumb brushing lightly over my knuckles. "That's all I wanted, love. For you to feel safe, cherished, and completely yourself." Mark's expression turned thoughtful, and he leaned back slightly, resting his hands on his knees. "It's not just about last night, though. It's about what it means moving forward. Experiences like this can change things, deepen connections, or even raise questions." I nodded, appreciating his honesty. "I've been thinking about that, too. I feel closer to David than ever. And I trust you, Mark. I don't know what comes next, but I'm open to exploring it together." David's eyes met mine, filled with a mix of pride and affection. "We'll take it one step at a time. There's no rush, no pressure. What matters most is that we communicate and stay true to each other." Mark raised his mug in a mock toast to communication, trust, and a little adventure. We clinked our mugs together, laughter filling the room. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the 2 men who had shown me that love and connection could be as expansive and infinite as we allowed them to be. As the day progressed, the 3 of us spent time together in an easy rhythm. We prepared breakfast, while Mark and I attempted to, while David kept stealing bites of the fruit we were chopping. The kitchen was filled with laughter and teasing banter, a stark contrast to the sensual intensity of the previous night, but no less meaningful. Over breakfast, we talked openly about our feelings, our boundaries, and what the experience had meant to each of us. Mark shared his perspective, emphasizing how much he valued the trust we had placed in him. David and I spoke about how it had deepened our bond, bringing us closer in ways we hadn't anticipated. "So, what's next for us?" I asked, glancing between the 2 of them. David reached across the table to take my hand. "Whatever we want it to be. There's no script for this, no right or wrong answers. We'll keep talking, keep exploring if that's what we all want. And if not, that's okay." 2. Mark nodded in agreement. The important thing is that we're honest with each other. Whether this was a one-time thing or the start of something more, it's all about what feels right for everyone involved. I smiled, feeling a sense of calm settle over me. I think that's what I love most about this, how open and respectful it's been. No matter what happens, I know we'll always have this connection. As the afternoon turned to evening, the 3 of us found ourselves lounging on the sofa, watching a movie and savoring the quiet companionship. The lines of our relationships had shifted, but the foundation of trust and love remained unshaken. When Mark eventually said his goodbyes, there were no awkward farewells, only warm hugs and promises to keep the lines of communication open. As the door closed behind him, David pulled me into his arms, his lips brushing softly against my temple. "I love you," he whispered, his voice filled with sincerity. "I love you too," I replied, my heart full. "Thank you for giving me the best birthday I've ever had." David's smile was radiant, and he held me close as we stood there, wrapped in each other's embrace. In that moment, I knew that no matter where our journey took us next, we would face it together, with open hearts and unwavering love. Thanks for joining me on this story. You won't want to miss what happens next. If you love this story and want to dive into more thrilling tales, don't forget to hit that subscribe.